road tubeless has been slowly gathering momentum as more and more manufacturers bring out compatible wheels and tyres. Fitting them is straightforward, but it is slightly different to standard inner tubes, so here's how to do it. First of all, you've got to make sure that your wheels and tyres are tubeless compatible, so just Google it to find out. It's really important that they are, because if you try and set up non-tubeless, tubeless, you run quite a high risk of blowing the tyre off the rim. Tubeless tyres have got a slightly different bead on them, which means that they fit slightly tighter on the rim and they stop it from happening. So in addition to your wheels and tyres, you're also going to need a tubeless valve, some sealant and a high volume track pump. You also probably want to keep some tyre levers close to hand just in case you need to resort to them. Firstly, make sure that your rim has suitable rim tape installed. Different manufacturers have different ways of doing it. Stan's here requires 2 layers of their sealant tape. Bontrager, for example, need a plastic rim strip. Shimano and a number of others have actually got a solid outer wall of the rim, which eliminates the need for any tape at all. And the next step is to take your tubeless valve and put it in the rim. Now it's important not to tighten it too much at this stage, because that actually makes it harder to get the tyre on. So leave it loose. Okay, tyre next. Start by putting one side of the tyre in the well of the rim, just as you would with a standard inner tube tyre. Yep. Tackle the next side now. Now, as I said, it is going to be slightly harder to fit, so we're going to need to pull out every trick in the book to get it to do it without tyre levers. It's not vital that we do it without tyre levers, but it is quite important just for the integrity of the bead. So, first things first, start fitting it at the opposite end to the valve. And that's really, really important because it gives us a little bit of extra slack in the bead. If you're really struggling, then some tyre manufacturers, like Schwalbe, have actually got a tyre lubricant that helps to seat it, but we're going to try and do it without. Now, when you've only got a couple of inches of bead left to fit on the rim, it's time to add your sealant. Now, some tyre manufacturers say that you don't need to add sealant for their road tubeless systems, but to me, this seems to be missing the point, really. Just a few grams of sealant is actually going to give you really, really great puncture protection from sharp objects. If you don't have it, all you've got with tubeless is protection from pinch flats, which is only half the problem. So, regardless of your tyre manufacturer, I'd say add a bit of sealant to it. It should tell you on the bottle of your sealant how much to add. In this case, Stan's, it's 2 ounces and about 60 ml. And then just gently inject it into the tyre. You've got to be quite careful, obviously, at this point, that it doesn't spill back out. So it's a good idea to just slowly tip the tyre and bring that last bit of bead up towards you. It's going to go everywhere, so maybe don't do it in your kitchen. And then just try and get this last bit of bead on. Booyah! Now, with a few manufacturers, Stan's included, you can actually inject it directly through the valve. So you can get a little valve core remover and it fits on. Then that little tool that we've just used, we'll just inject it straight in, but it's not essential. It all gets to the same place in the end. The ease with which you can inflate the tyre now depends entirely on how tightly the tyre sits on the rim. So if you struggled manfully to get it on in the first place, now is the time you're going to reap the benefits. You should just be able to inflate it with a standard track pump, but if you are struggling, then an air compressor is really, really going to help. In which case, just take a trip to your local car garage or hopefully your local bike shop to sort it out. And if you continue to struggle, then there are a couple of other tips as well. One is using soapy water to sponge the inside of the bead, and that will artificially create a temporary seal for you. And the other thing is to roll the deflated tyre along the ground, allowing the sealant to coat the inside of the bead. And again, that hopefully will just encourage it to seal. But the moment of truth, pump away. Ready? Oh, you little beauty. Now, if it's not taking straight away, persevere a little bit. Just give it a bit of elbow grease. So just, dare I say it, pump vigorously. If it is taking, which is great, then inflate it to about 70 psi. As you're doing so, you should hear little popping noises as the tyre seats on the bead, but just keep a close eye on it, just in case it gets any funny ideas about popping off. And give it a bit of spin just to spread the sealant around and make sure that the tyre is sat properly. That's not quite there yet, it's still got a bit of a bobble on it, so we need to put a bit more pressure in it. As well as spinning it, it's also a good idea to pop it in your bike and take it for a little ride around the block just to help get it to seal properly. Otherwise, you're good to go. Just remember as well that they're not going to hold air quite as well as a standard inner tube, so that more than ever you're going to have to check your tyre pressure before you go on a ride. But I'm sure you do that anyway. A few things to remember then. Make sure you've got tubeless compatible tyres. When you're putting them on, remember to finish them off at the valve to make it easier on yourself. Put the appropriate amount of sealant in and then pump away. You'll be all set. For more mechanical videos, click on me, and to subscribe, click on my good looking brother over there.